now. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to limited meeting. We're gonna have the limited meeting in two parts. The first part will be talking about the format in general, talking about like draft navigation stuff, general format concepts, what each archetype looks like, how to make things work. There's nominally like 5 main supported archetypes, but there's also various other like spaces that we have all found ourselves in, and we will get to talking about that. So that's the first meeting. Hopefully that should take under 2 hours solidly. So like hopefully at most 1.5. We'll see. We'll try to move quickly through things, while still covering things as best as possible. Then after that we will we'll take a break, and then we'll do a rares and mythics meeting where we will go through every single rare and mythic in the set, and have people talk about like how good they are, how they play out, things like that. With the very hard rules instantiated of like you cannot talk about the card if you have not played with it, and if someone says move on, we move on.
I have a proposal for slightly different structure for this format.
Okay.
I want us to do a like archetypes meeting, but I think that can be shorter because there are a little fewer of them, and I want to talk about the premium uncommons in the rares meeting. I think it's mostly about like the premium cards and the rest of the support.
Okay, we can talk about like in the rares meeting. We can have a section that's like someone says what they think is a premium uncommon.
Okay.
In the description of the rares, I would like to explicitly tag the relative delta across the different like kindred synergies for the rares. I think that not all the rares are created equally for each archetype.
Yes.
Even when they don't have the type card on them.
Yes, that is true. Okay. So broad format stuff. So I think the natural thing to do first is just talk about each of the like quote supported archetypes. Those are merfolk, elementals, goblins, elves, and kithkin. So yeah, I guess let's just start with merfolk. Does anyone have thoughts on merfolk in general, like how you should build a deck? What are key commons, key cards?
I've been quite successful with merfolk. I'm not exactly sure why, but I can try to explain some of the things that I think I've been doing. So I think this is probably the like second most supported kindred deck at common, and mostly like things being supported at common isn't good in this format. You don't want to over-index on that, but there are some high-quality cards here that, especially with the Convoke mechanic, can like get you out to very fast starts. I think the biggest notable weakness of the deck is that it can very easily create a lot of creatures on board. It cannot very easily get through any number of medium to large-sized creatures, and so you need ways to either fly over or remove them or bounce them or something like that. And so I think you can put together these like common packages where there's like the 2-drop 2/2 that gains 2 life when it taps. There's a bunch of cards with tap synergies. I think most of them are just pretty good. Like you could just put a lot of the common merfolk creatures, even if they look a little bit below rate. When they work together, they are actually like decently solid rate. So for example, the 1/3 flyer that pumps something, that card is just pretty good. 2 of them is just you have 2 3/3 flyers on attacks. And it's obviously a good curve with the 1/3 unblockable, makes you tap a creature, so you can be attacking for 3 unblockables every turn starting on turn 3. That can definitely like help you win a game. Sundapple Celebrant, the 5/6, is one that I think I've been moving up on because it is just a large body. The stats aren't really great on it, but I think stats are somewhat fake a lot of the time in this format. I think that's something to know.
Stats has in 17 land stats, not
stats.
Power and toughness
yes,
stats.
The power and toughness stats are good. That's why. And I generally think that like you can't really get into any deck for just commons and not the payoffs. But I would say that like the reason that this deck is pretty reliable to draft is that if you get a couple payoffs, the common base is really solid, and you will pretty reliably, as long as it's not like being heavily cut, be able to build a solid curve around whatever your payoffs are. That's how I would put it. And ways to break through larger bodies on the other side are important.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. So I think we should talk a little bit about like what the like notable payoffs are. It might be like somewhat obvious, but just like there's the Merfolk Lord uncommon. There's Wanderwine Farewell, a very powerful card if you can make it work consistently. You need to have like I don't know 7-ish Merfolk at least. You probably want more than that as well, but it's just like a very strong tempo card. There's a bunch of like rare things, like obviously the Merfolk Champion, Sig's Command, maybe. Like there's a rare Lord as well. But I think the two things that uncommon. There's also obviously the Eclipsed Merfolk, which is just like all of the Eclipsed cards are going to be like pretty very strong in the specific color pair that they're in, and like less strong when you're like only like much less strong when you're only half in that color those colors. And I think just in general the two things that uncommon that you're mostly looking at as payoffs are Duelist and Farewell, the Lord and the bounce thing.
Duelist I think especially because it helps so much with the stats. Like you go very wide, and so it's just giving you a ton of power and toughness for 2 mana.
Yeah, definitely I agree with Ryan's statement of like a lot of the problems with the Merfolk deck, or a lot of the biggest issue that the Merfolk deck faces is that its creatures are small, and there's like you'll often have like several like 2/2s or 1/1s or 1/3s or things like that that can't really attack into your opponent's like 3/3s or 4/4s and also have trouble blocking them.
It is true that in gameplay with this deck, you do need to be on the lookout for like 2-turn swings where you lose some creatures, and like finish them off. That's something that is hard to see often when playing go wide decks. So like be on the lookout for that too in gameplay. But generally, you don't want to be planning on that in deck building. You want to be like having ways to actually break through like spells you cast.
Has anyone played with the Kithkin Lord in the Merfolk deck? Like the Kithkin, the 2-drop
champion?
that pumps.
A Timid Shield Bearer?
Yeah, that one.
It's fine.
Sure.
Like you'll pick it up and you'll probably play it in most of your Merfolk decks, but you would rather have it be a Merfolk most of the time. Like, you know, it's a good enough card because of the ability in the go wide deck, but like it's not premium by any means.
I've also found that that plus, so weirdly enough, +1/+1, while it's good to have on a wide board, which is why like the actual Merfolk Lord is really nice. The like paying 5 mana for it doesn't actually break through that many like large boards because your creatures are just like often like 2 sizes smaller, not just 1 size smaller. So like that effect is going to be better when your creatures are like similar size to your opponents, which is more often in like Kithkin. And when it's Merfolk, where your creatures are often like notably smaller, you need like a little more than that, like something that isn't that expensive. I will note that like I have had a little bit of success with like the card Stalactite Dagger. Large asterisk on that in Merfolk, where it's not a great card on its own. It's like a somewhat lackluster 2-drop, but you can use it to like turn some of your other non-Merfolk creatures into Merfolk for some of the Merfolk synergies, and it does give you a way to like help with sizing a bit. Like turning your like 1/3 flyers into 2/4 flyers does matter, or like 2/2 vigilance flyers into 3/3 vigilance flyers.
Unblockable guy.
Yeah. Again, it's still not like I'm not saying that like all Merfolk deck want Stalactite Daggers, but it's something you can do to help with sizing. I have also played Appeal to Erdu, which is a terrible card, but like if it's better to have something, have a low rate card to help with sizing than to not have anything at all.
Also, probably just note, the uncommon Tapper is really good. Like,
yes,
really, really good. Even though it doesn't seem like it would be amazing, it's like a very high pick.
Yeah.
It's also just good at everybody else.
Yeah.
Dagger has much better data than any other card.
Yes. Portis, you were saying something?
Yeah, I think the white equipment, the uncommon one that gives power to the toughness or whatever +1.
Oh yes.
Is like a Merfolk card. Because you put it on the 1/3, and it's 4 unblockable, and it's a 4 damage clock, unblockable, which can be hard for some decks. So I have, for example, for me that's a secret Merfolk card, because also the Walter, the 1/3, again it becomes a 4 power flyer.
Yeah, and also you might want the 5/6 in it. Turns that into a 7/7.
Yeah, so that's something that I noticed, like that I want to pick up. And for me, like the 0/5 Kitkin, I played because sometimes the board stalls end up in you just attacking for either with the 1/3 that's unblockable or the 2/2 flyer with the vigilance. So even like having one Kitkin and some changeling gives a good like impression of a clock.
Dragonfly, I'm gonna mute you. This Dragonfly entered a noisy area or something.
I have some additional ground that we've covered. I think that.
So yeah, I mean for the blocking and sizing, what I maybe it hasn't been mentioned as much, the 2/2 that gains 2 life, if you can consistently tap it, for example with a tapper, it's amazing. Yeah. Because you then don't need to block. Basically, you can just gain 2 lives, or I had multiple games where I had 2 of those that like even didn't have. But I had like the star draw, convoke spells, and stuff like that, and you would get there with just gaining the life and in the board stalls.
As a general note, I think breaking through board stalls is a consistent trend among basically all of the tribal decks. Is that you really need to have a way to get through. What that looks like varies a lot. Another thing about the Merfolk deck specifically is I think a lot of the elemental payoff cards in blue are just really good in the Merfolk deck, particularly the ones that trigger off of expensive spells, because all of your invoke spells trigger very cheaply. I think that means that you can often kind of like wind the guy that draws extra cards and you cast things that cost 4 or more, or things. These are premium cards in your Merfolk deck as well as your Merfolk deck, which makes them just like above average even in general. Lastly, I think the 3-mana 3/2 that taps a Merfolk to buy back the creature that has died. I think the variance on that card from game to game is really wide. It's either the best card in your deck by a large margin because your opponent, like, you either have 2 of them, you're looping them, but they can't really trade it well or kill it well, in which case it just like draws you a premium card every single turn, or it is a vanilla 3/2 that is a Merfolk, and there is really almost no in between. So that's just kind of like the one downside of the card. Like, it reads really well, but it oftentimes does literally nothing when it's not doing everything.
Quite bad stats. I need to check.
I believe that completely because I think a lot of the times it's undercosted or overcosted for getting nothing.
Yeah. Have you had decks where you feel like you're very happy that you played it and it was good?
Yes. It has frequently basically sold my opponent by having 2 of them that my opponent just can't ever deal with.
What does enabling actually look like?
I think just like a lot of things have to go right in the game, and like there are ways to make those things go right, like having removal spells to push it through.
So I get, the stats are a little better than I thought.
Really good with that. Yeah, the tapper's very good with it. The problem is you have to attack with it. You can't just tap it, and you have to have a target in your graveyard.
Almost every time that it's been good, I've had multiple copies of it, and they just loop each other and trade.
Yeah,
it's just a 3-power creature that my opponent blocks, and then the next one taps, brings it back to the first one, and they just can't not block my 3-power creature because they will die.
Yeah.
And this one actually has the tapped creature needs to be a Merfolk.
Yes.
Right. So
unlike
it's a bit.
Yes.
It's a bit awkward because maybe some other deck like Kitkin would use it, but it's hard for them.
Yeah, it's like maybe good sometimes in your Merfolk deck. It's generally not good anywhere else.
Okay, that's a lot of stuff about Merfolk. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
Do you like the 4-mana 3/2, the one that makes fairies?
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need like ways to enable it.
Okay.
I mean, you'll play it in probably a lot of decks, but it can be quite bad in a lot of games if you're behind. So I think I really want some of the 1/3s or some of the tappers or like some ways to
Convoke spells.
Combat, convoke spells.
Okay,
Yeah. But like I wouldn't play it if your deck weirdly doesn't happen to have a good amount of those.
Yeah, I also think it's not like a super premium card even when it is good. It's like a decent card when it's good.
A card you're happy with, basically.
And it does give you a black token. Sometimes relevant.
True.
I think this is a little bit of an interesting question. Unwelcome Sprite, the 2/1 flyer. How happy are we with that in like a Merfolk deck?
I think a lot of Merfolk decks just like good 2-drops. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't trigger it by
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, like you just like want things that help you convoke stuff a lot of the time in Merfolk decks. And as long as like there are some payoffs which will want you to have specifically Merfolk, and as long as you have like good enough Merfolk count, you'll be good. and you can have some number of like non-merfolk in your deck. Blue-red elementals. I know other people have had more experience with this than I have, so other people should.
I've drafted this a lot. I think it's kind of built around its like red's decent and removal between like red has a lot of like pretty fine rate removal between like Cinder Strike is obviously very good. Tweeze is very fine. Feed the Flame is very fine. So I think it's a lot about like playing a 1-for-1 game, trading cards for permanents, not falling behind too hard. But the elemental deck does do a very good job of like preventing flood and keeping up card flow. So it tends to play a late game much better than many of the other decks.
One thing about blue-red is you sometimes fall into it after taking like the first good cards in a pack.
Yes.
And then you just kind of like, oh, now I'm in blue-red.
I think the way I've ended up in blue-red the most is that I've just taken like good red cards like Tweeze, Seer, Cinder Strike, Cool Wrath, Zealot, and then by like the middle of the pack you start finding like some random like blue elementals that work with the ones you've already taken. That's been my experience of like how you end up in this deck the most.
Yeah, you fall into it.
Yeah.
How much is it a green deck? Like base green red or base green blue splashing the other?
It generally I think it's base red. It's red tends to be the most important color in the deck.
Man, I'm just thinking about the 0-4 and how often the deck wants to be base green. I've already used that card.
A lot like
splashing green.
That, but I think the 4-3 that makes a treasure and like the 6-5 that like either land cycles or like nets a card up to exile.
Yeah.
I think those are the kind of cards that I really want to leverage like when I'm actually in blue red. That being said, you wind up in blue red because you find blue cards and red cards and then push them together. I find myself diverging away from blue red because I find elemental cards and then something else that seems better, and I just wind up there instead, right? Like I start with a start that's like the bounce guy, the 4-mana draw card guy, and then I wind up playing Revoke. I usually deviate away from blue red because I'm not super excited about the intermediate elementals that aren't just like the double or any of the absolutely busted ones.
I've also found this. I found it hard to get into this deck, and I don't exactly know why, and I'm a little confused as to like how I should make it work.
So,
I have a
Like I said, I think you get into it by starting with
like you shouldn't
good
try
red
to.
cards.
Yeah.
Good red cards is how you end up in it. Not that like not that you get good red cards, you should end up in this deck, but that like
This is kind of the red deck because Goblins is so reluctant to get into for everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's like the way to think about it.
Yeah.
like, the blue cards are kind of better than the black cards.
Yeah, I think basically what's being said is that blue-red elementals is less about the elemental synergy largely, though there are some cards like Flame Braider specifically like
Yes.
pushes, and like Twin Flame Travelers is also like a really strong
Yes,
one.
both of those cards are very strong.
But other than those two cards are uncommon, maybe some rare stuff, but like Ashling's Command is and Ashling are just good cards in general. Blue-red just tends to be like good stuff, where there's like a lot of good red cards and there's like plenty of good blue cards as well, and you just end up playing good blue and red cards and not caring too much about the elemental type.
Like in my deck earlier today that I, trophied it 2-0'd with, it was a lot of very powerful red cards, a little bit of elemental synergy, but like generally I was just playing strong red cards.
Going back to what Mason was saying about when you want to leave blue-red, it's when you get like a Prisma Basher, and you're like, oh, now I want to be red-green, but I've still got all these good blue cards, but you can still play them.
That's when I think you end up finding a home for like a Great Force Druid.
Yeah, that's when
Right.
you move into like red-green, splashing your blue cards.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit different. I think that I look at it as like the blue cards are very defensive, and I see that like that shell as like a lane to be either elementals or in this like kind of like Teamer Vivid space.
I feel like the red cards are the ones that I found to be the more effective defensive ones because I'm relying red on so much as like cheap, efficient removal.
Sure, but I just think like
And blue tend to be like my good value cards.
I agree that the blue cards are good value cards, but the creatures are also very defensive. And I think that when you're playing a bunch of high toughness creatures, you're flanking your opponents forward, and you're able to leverage them into a late game.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday about the 2-mana 1/3 and the 3-mana 2/4 elementals at common as like cards that maybe aren't like amazing rate overall, but can help you with a defensive game.
They like you play like a bunch of the greedy is not exactly the right word, but the slightly clunky blue convoke stuff, and you're just like rewarded for putting a lot of that in your deck because you clogged up the board very efficiently.
Yeah. I think like, can anyone think of any other like elemental payoffs other than like Sunderflock, Twin Flame Travelers, and Flame Breaker that specifically tell you like I want to put a bunch of elementals in my deck as opposed to just like randomly having good blue and red cards? I guess like Gathering Stone kind of counts.
Yes, that one actually really does.
For what it's worth, there are a lot of incidental random good value elementals that make an exceptional Gathering Stone deck, especially because a lot of them are like 4 mana.
Or 6 mana.
Yeah. And so like 6, 4s, and 3s. So the Gathering Stone discount ends up working out really nicely in this deck.
I do think notably though that like if there's a worst Gathering Stone deck, this might be it, just in the sense of like we're saying there aren't actually that many Kindred payoffs for elementals that are like worth going for. By this, I'm trying to make the point that like speculating on changelings in like mid to late pack 1 in the draft is going to be a little bit less valuable if you're going towards an elemental space, I think, or like a blue-red space.
Almost all of the Vivid cards, I'm just checking here to make sure that I'm correct on this, but almost all the Vivid cards are elementals, which means when we talk about elementals that like if you have some of these elemental tribal synergies for, splashing for base, I mean they're mostly all busted rares, right? But they're all busted rares or good uncommons that become somehow double busted if you're doubling the trigger, unsurprisingly. This is true for the Evoke Elementals. This is also true for the Gain Life thing in green, the Making Kithkin thing in white, the Drain thing in black, and I don't know
Explosive Prodigy, Tristan Special.
That card's always good. That card is always good. But I don't... Prisma Basher not an element? No, Prisma Basher
No,
also an element.
yeah, basically all of the Vivid like things that have triggers are elementals.
So
the creatures
if you
that
have
have
your
triggers.
Twin Flame Traveler and you Prisma Basher them, I presume they die. I haven't done that.
They probably die if you just Prisma Basher without Twin Flame, but
Mason, are you gonna be counting the Prisma Basher toughness?
Oh yeah, we're gonna use the Prisma Basher numbers over there.
The Prisma Basher
It
numbers.
doesn't give trample.
well, it has trample itself at least.
It does when you cast the second one.
It does if you have Lava Leaper in play. Or sorry, if your opponent has Lava Leaper in play.
None of us are gonna have Lava Leaper in play.
Okay. Anyways, any other thoughts on elementals? We can save like some the Vivid stuff for like later discussion.
Elementals is a deck that more frequently splashes than the other tribal components, which makes the relative fixing like Evolving Wilds more important than your Merfolk deck comparatively.
Steam Vex plus IWD.
If you're doing Vivid stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or splashing. Sometimes you want to skip.
Yeah.
But again, I think a point you've made is like you shouldn't just splash some removal spells with using the Scarecrow. Like you need high impact like cards to be splashed.
Yeah, I mean sometimes removal is high impact because it's your only removal, but yes. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Next up, let's talk about goblins. I have a lot of thoughts about goblins from like a couple drafts I did. Does anyone have other thoughts before I say?
I think if you have a lot of thoughts, we should get all of your thoughts and then add what is left over.
Okay, I typed a lot of this up in the Pod Trophies channel from my 2-0 from yesterday with goblins. I've drafted goblins like I think 3 times now, twice online, both of which did very poorly, and once in paper, which 2-0'd. And I think what the difference between these is that online, like the 2 times I drafted it where it did poorly, I was actively trying to draft goblins, with like an early like payoff like Grub or the Boggart Mischief, or I don't remember exactly what the things were, but like probably it was some payoff like Curse Crafter or Mischief or Grub that like got me into like trying to draft the goblins deck. Whereas the way that I got into goblins yesterday with my 2-0 was that I took Grub pack 1 pick 2, but then just took good red cards and ignored the fact that I had like theoretically a good goblins payoff because it was also like Grub is just a good card, right? And I just completely ignored that to the extent that in pack 3 I took I was looking to be maybe white with the like 3 mana 3/4 rare and the Figure of Fable. I was looking at maybe being red white, and so I took some good a good white card over a Boggart Mischief and a good red card over a Curse Crafter, and then just wield both of them, and that's how I ended up in Goblins. And I think that just like going after the Goblins payoffs is not really enough for the Goblins deck, because a lot of the Goblins payoffs ask you to play big games because they're like blood artists randomly. And like a lot of the Goblin payoffs are about like, you know, slowly pinging your opponent while you're playing like underrate small creatures, and that doesn't really work unless you have a lot of resources. So I actually think that the Goblin payoff that you need the most to be a Goblins deck is actually the Eclipsed Boggart at uncommon. That and Grub to some extent, but and the problem with that is that it is really hard to be like, it's really hard to like take an Eclipse Boggart and like hard commit to it, because you kind of also need the other payoffs. There's just a lot of moving pieces, and you need to actually be really open. So I would suggest that you don't try to like actively be Goblins. You just treat it as like, maybe red and black are open, and you just like take good red cards and take good black cards, but don't like go super hard on like, you know, trying to be Goblins.
I have a very different perspective, so I'm going to stack this. I think the best Goblins payoff card is the black Tree Folk that removes -1/-1 counters to kill things. I think that what you should be trying, like, I think the Goblins deck, the best like red common that's a Goblin is the Rummager, and I think what you should be trying to do is basically try to use the black uncommon and the Looter to just set up a way to just dominate small boards and go wide, and then use the Blight mechanic to kind of like leverage some of your like, you know, disposable things. Like, this is a red-black sacrifice deck, except the sacrifice mechanic is Blight now, and like you're trying to manipulate the game that way and try to keep your opponent's resources relatively constrained by leveraging these cards that have these additional costs.
So I don't disagree with that. I just wasn't thinking of that as Goblins, I guess.
Yeah, but I think like that's what you're like. I think that the 2/3 Death Toucher that like is a Blood Artist is just really good on raid. It's a 2/3 Death Toucher for 2. It doesn't need to have, like, it has flavor text. That's cool. This is what I think about when I think about the Goblins deck, is you like get some loose tribal synergies, because these are like the black and red uncommons anyways, but this is what you're trying to get your deck to do.
That is basically what Jason was saying. You're a red-black.
Yeah, but like
They are different decks.
I'm trying to explicitly call out the fact that like you are still trying to build a synergy engine. The synergy engine is not necessarily Goblins, but it is a specific engine you want to build. It's not just a pile of Cinder Strikes and the thing that like blights 1 and like draws 3. Like I do want to have like Blight cards plus Blight payoffs, and those are a lot of Goblin cards. Like the Champion is phenomenal for this kind of thing, right? Obviously there's some really good ones, but it's more than just I want to be playing like red and black good stuff. I want to build an engine.
So I agree with everything that's been said. I basically think there are 2 decks here. The one Jason is describing is much harder to get into because at common it is not supported enough, and the payoffs are not even good enough, because you just need so much material that you need these like much higher rarity cards. Like, I had a deck that had 2 Grubs in it, and because Grub by her own like represents a pseudo infinite stream of material, then the deck worked. But I noticed that like if I didn't draw Grub and I didn't have this like access to infinite card flow, it just didn't really work. Then separately, and I think this is doable, especially in the black-red space, because you have the 1/3 Rummager that really enables it, because you get to blight whenever you want. But it's like also somewhat enabled in black-white, red-white, a little kind of thing. But like the uncommon Tree Folk and Giants are all just very strong, and if you get 3 to 4 of them, you can build a very strong blight synergy deck. And I think that is also a thing that exists. It is much more supported in like the lower rarities. It is a pretty good backdoor for like a weird draft where the premium decks aren't open, I would say.
Yeah. I think specifically the thing I'd want to call out too with regards to like the difference between Goblins and Tree Folk. Well, first of all, Tree Folk I think also touches into white. Sometimes you're in like the red-white or black-white space, or like just Mardu in general. That's like another thing that I think we should touch on separately.
Yes.
For Goblins specifically, I'm mostly talking about like what kinds of decks would you ever put the card Boggart Prankster in and feel like happy about it, instead of it just being like you need to fill your 2-drop slot.
This is the
What the black
One in the black 1/3 that says whenever you attack with a goblin, with any number of goblins, give one of them +1/+0.
It's a 2-drop. It attacks as a 2/3, and it's like
Yeah, like that's a card where like I think there is one specific deck where you were happier with it than just 2-drop that like attacks and blocks and fills out your 2-drop slot, and that is the Goblins deck. But I think that deck almost never happens. And I want to highlight that.
Where Murfolk has like basically good commons and goblins don't.
Yeah. Similarly, I think the 2/4 goblin, like the 4-mana 2/4 goblin, that can actually be quite powerful. Like the one that like gets plus a billion if you have a billion goblins. That can be quite powerful in the goblins deck, but again, almost never happens.
Yeah, I just wouldn't try to draft like that style of like red-black goblin synergy thing. I would just try to like enjoy the 0-3 because it's still, you can fly it onto it a bunch and still like let it go to combat with some other thing.
I thought you meant enjoy the 0-3.
Honestly, I just enjoy the 0-3.
Yeah.
Very peaceful in the 0-3 bracket.
Do other people have thoughts on like goblins, or do people want to? Other people have thoughts on tree folk stuff, or blight synergy stuff?
Tree folk is a natural place to pivot this too, because I think that's like what we were all talking about.
Yeah.
I have lots of thoughts.
Okay.
I've seen people play Grub in their non-goblin deck because they have changelings, but they don't put a mountain in their deck. Just put the mountain in the deck.
Yeah, a lot of the flip cards get a lot better if you can flip them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just put the mountain in your deck.
Turns out the fine rate card is really good when you get 2 really good rate cards.
Do you want to talk about?
Yeah,
people?
so I think that like tree folk and to a lesser extent giants, because I think they have a lot of overlap. These are your ways to leverage the blight synergies or the removal of -1/-1 counters for effect. They're all like, once you pay for their effect, the total card that you've gotten usually ranges somewhere from between like about appropriately costed, but you got to pay in installments, to like if you do it a second time, you've gotten really far ahead in the exchange. Notably, the white-black hybrid one represents just like, oh, well, I can kind of grind forever between like the Rummager and this, and the red Rummager Goblin is the only repetitive source of blight on your own creatures at common that you can play, which is why it's so important to me. If you played any Aether Drift Limited, where the 4/5 Reacher that let you discard a card and draw a card every turn, which is obviously busted because it's huge and did this, it almost fills a similar role in like the function of what you get to do in your blight decks. Is as long as you have this card, you have this engine of like, oh, well, now I just have an onboard like functionally 3 mana, give a creature -2, -2. And a lot of these tribal decks that are relatively low in removal spells and require these synergy pieces just kind of fold to that. So I think that like the downside about getting into this deck, quote unquote, is all the tree folk are good in all of the decks that play any of these colors if they can support casting it. So it's very hard to like consistently get these payoffs. I usually like get the uncommon, try to support the blight synergies a little bit, but plan to play it on rate. And then if I wind up in a red deck that can support the tree folk, that's where I think the deck can get really explosive, or like have this like engine that really outclasses anything that anyone's doing below the rare level.
Yeah. Some other not at common
Things that repeatedly blight. Obviously, there's the rare that's really busted. The 1-drop elf that. Oh, my stream shut down. Give me a second.
The Goblin Champion.
The Goblin Champion at rare as well. Though that one is hard because you need to have a Goblin density for that. But at uncommon, there's a couple of nice ones. Mostly I'm thinking of the nice one at uncommon. Gut Splitter Gang has been kind of impressive in this kind of space. 4 mana 6/6. If you can turn its downside into an upside, where it's just giving you like a -2/-2 every turn, or like a buy back a creature every turn, or jump 2 creatures every turn, or something. That's it. Yeah, it's extremely good and it's fucking huge. But one downside with this space that I have found is if you don't fully if it doesn't come together, if you try to force it and it doesn't come together, some of the cards are like specifically the cards that give you blight repeatedly can be pretty embarrassing on their own. Even the Rummager, like if you're just not getting any value from the -1/-1, it's really costly to like put a -1/-1 counter on your creature that's not gonna come off ever. So you really do need to make sure that you have enough of the blight removers to play all these payoffs. Like the Gut Splitter Gang is kind of embarrassing sometimes if you don't have a thing to play.
I will say we generally and correctly said that the tree folk and all that, the giants and the synergy stuff with -1/-1 counters are mostly just premium cards that you can't really get, so you need to kind of fight over them. I think the one maybe exception to this is the 2/3 giant for 2 and a red. I've seen that go pretty late, and that can be a way that you get into this space.
I will say, if you've seen that go pretty late, I think it's wrong for it to go pretty late.
I agree, but it does go late. So
Okay.
this is just a practical thing that you can actually use.
Sure.
Like if you get 2 of those in pack 1, I think you should be looking out for like the Rummager and just try to get into the space.
It's also a common one, right?
Yeah.
So you just see more of them.
I think it goes late because there's no clear deck it goes in. Like people are not picking it because they're picking card that makes sense in the space I'm going into.
Yeah, but I think most of my red decks will want 1 to 2 anyways.
Totally agree.
Yeah, the card is like a very good rate.
Yeah. I also want to note that Bark of Duran. This is another like the equipment that makes your thing like butt punch. Yeah, that's a good word. Is really good in the space. It's especially good with Reaping Willow. Turn it into a 7/7 lifelink. But like all of your creatures will have like more toughness than power. Even your like 2-drop Gristle Glutton. So yeah, this is another place for that card.
I bounced my 7/7 lifelink like 4 times. It was really sad.
Then that means you have to keep healthy candy.
The artifact thing is like an example. One of the times we talked about using 17 lands for like previous events is using it to find what cards people don't like that you're very likely to get, and the butt punch card is an example of that. Like the stats on it are so bad that people are pretty unlikely to take it.
Yeah,
so if you're in a position where you're having a really hard time finding a lane, it might be something you can move into to like have a deck.
Bark of Duran.
Oh.
Yeah. I distinctly think of it as like a pseudo payoff. Like I think of this format a lot in terms of like payoffs and enablers, and like I think it's important to like find some payoffs and then first, and then like find some enablers for your payoffs. And
Jason's looking at me and that's talking. It makes me feel
and I definitely think of Bark of Duran as somewhat of a payoff. Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts on?
It's a payoff that pays off a lot of different cards in a lot of spaces, so it can be a good scrappy draft payoff.
Yeah. But overall, the rate is maybe
it's not amazing. It needs to be like really enabled for you to be happy with it.
And you can't play too many of them.
Mark of Duran, the equipment.
Yes.
Another problem Goblins has is because the card quality is low. If someone else is in there and you're both fighting for Goblins cards, you're both going to train wreck.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have to know
you have to fall into it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would like necessarily recommend taking Bark of Duran like super highly,
No,
but
it's definitely like a get it for free.
Yeah, it's like a get it for free, like play like 1 of in your deck, and like it's nice sometimes.
The Blight 2 draw card like Tree Folk with Reaping Willow seems pretty nice.
That one has weirdly bad stats.
Yeah, it's like a 3/7 though. Which
Well,
is like...
I mean like on 17 land.
Oh, it has weirdly bad stats.
I don't understand.
It's like a 2/5 in these kinds of decks.
It's because it's really bad in other white decks.
Yeah.
You're overpaying.
Are we talking about the 2/5? We're talking about the 3/7.
The 3/7 in black.
Draw card when you enter your attack.
I have liked that card in this space.
Yeah,
but it is also expensive.
It is very expensive. I had it in a deck yesterday, but I just haven't drew it together. But it did. And every spot that I saw, like, if I had it, it would have been very strong.
Wait, what is current is in 17 lands with a C plus 60%?
Wait.
Which
one? Oh, wrong one.
Not Reaping Willow.
Makes more sense, okay.
Blighted Blackthorn, I think, is the name.
Okay.
That's B-.
Actually, I'm curious about points being picked up.
I would not take it tightly. 6.64 Elsa.
Yeah.
For what card?
Blighted Blackthorn. I think this card is like the only place you want it is in like the Blight deck, and it's not anything clear. Oh, right, that reminds me. One card I should ask about. Has anyone successfully put Tarfire in there? The 2-mana enchantment that like dings them for 2.
I have unsuccessfully put in my deck.
I asked Connor for put in his deck, and then he didn't.
Okay, sounds like we all dislike it. Okay, great. One of my opponents almost killed me with it, but you might note the word almost there.
I had the same experience against that card where they almost killed me with it and they died.
That is my experience.
Okay, great.
Like a normal creature would have been better.
Okay, let's move on to Elves. Best deck in the format that I've never drafted.
It's the best deck in the format by a lot.
Yeah, Elves goes hard.
Very deep.
Someone want to start speaking on Elves?
I can start. I've drafted a lot of this. I have
only trophied with elves or merfolk. Literally, I have like
I've only
3
trophied with elves. I
now.
can also contribute to this.
Yeah, so elves is just very easy to get into because there's a lot of very good payoffs and there's a lot of very good commons. You shouldn't get into it for the commons. Like, you need the payoffs to actually be there for it to be worth it. But there's just a lot of them. So, like, at uncommon, the Morkant's Eyes is really good. The Lord is extremely strong. Both of these cards are just, like, very, very good. The Eclipsed Elf is, like, take it like a bomb. Basically.
Yeah. Eclipse Elf is a reason to get into elves.
Yes, agreed. And then like there's insane rare payoffs like Gloom Ripper. We don't have to like put them all in, but
Tristan's Command is sick.
Tristan's Command, yeah. Like there's just really, really, really good rares. We maybe in the rare meeting should talk about which elves rares are like not amazing. And then there's also very strong commons. Donhan Eulogist is possibly one of the best commons in the set. It's not Siege Rhino. It's just like a really, really, really strong rate card. If you can have 10 or more elves in your deck, you are pretty likely to have one in your yard by the time you cast it. And the common creature curve here is just very solid, similar to Merfolk, where you can just take elf creatures that say type elf and put them in a curve and have some payoffs, and your deck will be great. One thing that can often happen is you end up with a lot of 4s. So, like, I will take a lot of Safe Right Cavalries and Donhan Eulogists. I do not really cut either of those cards ever, which means I cut a lot of other 4-drops a lot. I often end up with, like, 5 of those cards between themselves, and I just, like, don't play any other 4-drops. Both of them are just really strong at, like, finishing games, I would say. The Graspling, yeah, great example of a 4 that I basically never play in this deck, because I just have so many other 4s. The 2s are good. You might need to prioritize them a little bit, just because they're 2s. Changelings, I think, can go really well in this space, because there can often be some cross synergies with Kithkin or Goblins. Usually Kithkin, I would say. So, like, they're a way to continue to get into Elves, especially because Elves is going to be contested. There will probably be 2, maybe even 3 Elves drafters per draft, and getting the Changelings is a way to make sure that you still hit your counts for the enablers without needing to, like, have it be fully open.
Yeah, Elves is one of the tribes that wants like a little bit more density of the creature type, I found.
12 to 15 is, like, great.
Yeah, but there's so many good ones.
Another reason.
The other thing I've really liked in the elf space is it has a lot of ways to like leverage a small number of premium payoffs and like have a lot of consistency, because you have like Lisan Informant and you have the 2-mana Millfork at a permanent back.
Yes.
And like
the self-mill
another card
payoffs.
Like you have a lot of ways to like find your payoffs and like engineer a more consistent game plan.
And like Changelings, one of the reasons you want it is because you get the 5/3, the Kithkin, that draws a card, and you kind of want that reduced.
That too, because that card's just good. You'll play it, but you'd rather have it cost 4.
Yeah.
The other card I want to call out, great Gathering Stone deck, like the best Gathering Stone deck.
It is very good Gathering Stone deck. The other thing I want to call out is the banner.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit in the other card discussion. The colorless banner. Dawnblessed Pennant. That card, I don't think it's going to make the cut in every elf deck, but it is a card that is the higher premium payoffs you have, the better this card gets, because elves is a lot better at just making that card always convert into a card, and it does kind of part of the life gain.
Spell.
Oh, loops with Tristan's Command.
Yeah.
The Tristan's Command loop is very real.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that. It's a lot of fun.
This is also
and it felt pretty strong.
The deck probably in the format with the best removal, which is a little bit weird to say about a green deck, but Assert Perfection's very strong. The uncommon Hunt the Weak, but it's just a permanent +2/+2 is
Pitiless
really strong.
Fists.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then the black
4/4, 4/1/1 counters card. That card's nice.
You do really want to pick up like 4+ removal spells in your elves decks, because you are planning to make the game go long and planning to win big games, and so you do need removal.
We were talking about 4-drops. I feel like if you have enough of the mill cards in your deck and you don't really, I think, need that many, the Moon Vigil Adherence is sometimes just a 15/15 with trample.
That card's huge.
It just wins the game.
Yeah, Moon Vigil's Adherence is really
that
strong.
card's so
in
strong.
every deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you don't need self-mill for that card to get pretty big in normal games of Magic.
Okay.
Basically, most of my elves decks, it's a very simple formula. Like 3 to 6 very premium payoffs, 12 to 15 creatures that have the type elf or changeling, and like 4 to 6 removal spells.
What, 6 premium payoffs?
I've had them.
Would you say that would people say that it's accurate to say that elves is the only like typal deck with a good common payoff in Dawnhand Eulogist?
Yeah, it's not even totally an elf payoff in that like you don't have to have that many elves for it to be pretty good.
Sure.
But yeah, it is definitely
like you would take early Dawnhand Eulogists and then like go into the elf space partially because you have Dawnhand Eulogists.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I had a deck yesterday where I took pick 2 Dawnhand Eulogists, pick 3 Dawnhand Eulogists. I felt pretty good about my start after 3 picks.
Also, you should probably just play that card even if you have like 8 elves.
Yeah.
It's very strong. It's never right to take it over Bitter Blossom, but I was looking at it earlier in the draft. I was like, that card's really good. Of course, I took the Bitter Blossom Bearer, but it was like I was starting to go towards. I was like, ooh, Sea Dragon.
Siege Runner or Bitter Blossom? 2026 questions.
Okay, shall we talk about Kithkin? Unless anyone has more thoughts on elves.
I have some thoughts. So the 2-mana ramp is like not premium in this deck, but if you're
2-mana ramp.
Yeah.
Great Forest Druid?
Great Forest Druid and Shiverwild's Growth.
Oh, okay.
I think Shiverwild's Growth is like a decent card. You can like spec on it early if it's not a great pack. Because the curve can be so fucked and because Dawnhand Eulogist is so powerful, you have a lot of elf deck that ends up with like a very low amount of 3-drops, and so you can play these cards to subsidize your 4-drops, kind of. It's awkward because the 2-drops in elves are also very, very good, but it's like something to consider if your curve is problematic.
It's also a little awkward because the Eulogist, you want to have traded something away first, ideally, so you can guarantee the trigger. And so you don't want it to be your first 4-drop, although it hits enough of the time, milling 3 cards, that, like, so be it.
In general, I would say that, like, if your elf deck is playing the 2-mana ramp spells, it is a little bit of a fail case. Like, you can play them to make your deck function, but that's not what you should be trying to, like, shape it into.
Sure, I agree.
Do we,
if I'm playing a 2-mana non-creature, I'd much rather it be, like, the mill spell that filters. I found, like, I've had, like, 2-drop light decks that play that card and feel, like, perfectly fine.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about the 2-mana 2/3. They have to behold the ramp creature.
That card's like pretty good. It's
okay.
fine. Like,
yeah,
it's 2-mana 2/3, and sometimes late in the game the deck is pretty mana hungry and it'll make mana. I don't think it's like a premium card.
It's not premium. No.
Yeah, it's not like a payoff.
It reads a lot better than it plays, but you still play it and are happy playing.
This is not the derogatory speaker you're looking for.
I really want to go that, like, behold the Scarblade, play the Scarblade, mill a elf, play a 3-drop on turn 3. That just sounds
playing
sick.
a 3-drop on turn 3.
Also, a 2-drop into a 3/3 sounds very.
I just want to play the 1/1 Death Toucher, block with it, and then cast this thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
1/1 Death Toucher is also just.
Oh yes.
Oh, the 1/1 Death Toucher is so nice.
Why do they give Soul Warden Death Touch?
I know.
I've had so many 15 life elf games.
It's warlike Soul Warden.
It wards souls. Of course, it needs to kill things. Yeah. So Kithkin. Do people have Kithkin thoughts?
The 0/5 is the payoff.
And the 2/2.
Said that Merfolk needs to break board stalls. What if your Merfolk never had flying and also sucked?
Well, so here's the thing. I think that's kind of true, except that you have like 3 very specific things that like break board stalls so cleanly that
those cards are really, really good.
Those cards are really, really good. Yeah.
Other cards are really bad if you don't have those cards.
Yeah. So the 3 cards I'm thinking about are, to be clear, I haven't really drafted this deck that much, but I have I've drafted like once online and played against a bunch and instantly put these cards in my other decks. Which is the 3 cards I'm referring to are Thoughtweft Lieutenant, the green-white 2/2 that whenever Kithkin enters, you give something +1/+1 trample.
It's not amazing. It's like
it can
+1/+1
really curve out on you.
+1/+1 is just not that
So,
much a lot of the time.
I'm gonna phrase it this way: that card is very good to snowball an aggressive start and have it be very good.
Yes.
It is very bad at actually breaking a board stall. because it's unlikely you're going to be able to trigger it enough times on turn 7 that you can actually get new attackers in, which makes me not. It's not the kind of card that I'm talking about that you need to have a premium on in the draft or type relative to like the other decks. It doesn't mean it's not still like does what it does very well. It's very efficient on rate. It's just like the problem is you can reach these fail cases where you're like you have a board and your board might even be slightly better than your opponent's board. They definitely don't have good attacks except for like on a basic creature or two, and you have like not horrible attacks, but they can assign some pretty good double blocks. And like this card is horrible at like getting through. As compared to some of the other ways to break board stalls, where you can actually just be like, okay, well, and we're gonna send.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Specifically, I call this one out because I think the early snowballing pressure helps break board stalls later by making it really awkward for your opponent to like make the blocks they want to because they need to preserve their life total more.
I basically think the Kithkin deck is very reliant on the early snowballing pressure.
Yes, I agree.
I think you can avoid that. I think you can build your Kithkin deck that you can create good attacks even when they're still at 10 instead of at 4.
How? Pump spells?
So pump spells help, but just like if you just prioritize like everything that breaks a board stall and you recognize the rest of the Kithkin card will just kind of slot in, like you can just have enough pieces, right? Like this is where things like, you know, the one that gives +1/+1 first strike is a way to break a board stall.
Yes.
It's not phenomenal, but it's a body you can
Oh,
play.
I've been really impressed by that one. I think I think the Foul Knight and the Thought Weft Imbuer, like the Exalted one, those have been really impressive to me out of the Kithkin deck.
To me, it's like the red-white hybrid giant that just like you just throw 2 Kithkins to the sky and see what happens. Oh, yeah, this is like a fadeaway jumper, like swoosh. But I think like Prisma Basher obviously is great always. It's like probably at its best in the Kithkin deck because you can usually trigger it for X equals 3 and it usually just turns 3 creatures that couldn't attack into 3 creatures that have to be jump blocked. Yay! All of the spaces in Kithkin decks, I want like many ways to try to force combat through on turn 8 and a blocked board, and then like some removal spells to not die to flyers.
I also think some Kithkin decks should be playing flyers at their top end, like Shore Lurker and the 5-mana Changeling.
Yeah.
5-mana Changeling is nice.
Jason, thoughts on this? Also breaks the board stall, that helps.
Yes. Jason, thoughts on opening kin binding?
It's not that hard. It's like an uncommon, right?
I think the way I would describe how I feel about Thought Weft Lieutenant, like the 2-drop, is that it's a premium 2-drop. I'm very happy to have it in my deck, but many of the like Kindred payoffs in this format are cards that I'm like, oh, I'm happy to go into a mid game. I'm comfy. I'm gonna draw this card eventually. Not this card. This card does not count for that whatsoever, and that is a big knock against it in a format that often has board stalls.
Most importantly, you can't use it to subsidize the number of ways you have to break a board stall in your deck.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about like I want 4, 5, maybe 6 ways to break a board stall, and that's a lot from your limited deck to have. I don't get to count this card, and so I still think the +2/+1 trick is a card that I'm going to use to get through this card, right? Like, but if you told me my Kithkin deck had like 10 creatures, 6 way to break a board stall, and 6 removal spells, and like a card that I wasn't very happy about, I'd be like, oh, this deck's probably very good.
10 total creatures?
10 creatures, plus 6 ways to break a board stall. Most of them are probably creatures. You probably have 16 creatures in your deck.
I was concerned about the 10 creatures.
I think it's like almost impossible to have only a 10 creature deck in this format.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
no drafting traditional control.
I have thoughts about the categorization of traditional control as creatureless, but sure.
Sarah Angel is traditional.
Exactly. Any other thoughts about Kithkin?
The 4/3 is really good. Miss Meadow Council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that helps you not need to break board stalls because it just attacks well, I think.
Just green card.
I think to some extent, a little
I
bit.
think the fact that it's a 4/3.
I feel like this archetype's a little bit like goblins. I couldn't listen to the goblins discussion, but I assume what you guys were talking about was similar.
It helps you sort of make sure games get to the point where you find the tool that breaks the game open.
Yeah.
Because it cantrips and does well in combat. But more often I find this card being like, well, my opponent doesn't have good attacks because I cantrip and do this thing. But if I attack it, it's going to trade for like a 3/2 somewhere, or like, you know, get double blocked by like a 2/2 and a 1/1 token, right? Like, especially like against a Nurgle or something. and I'm like, I don't know if I can really reduce this board in a way where it'll wind up profitable and I'll be able to get him attacking.
Very accomplished.
My specific experience with it is that I've had a lot of opponents get +1/+1 either with the like lieutenant trigger,
As a 5/4.
so it's a 5/4, or with the thing that gives it +1/+1 in vigilance, and then it starts being like really annoying to try to like 5/4 has felt really like the break point that makes it really nice. And there's also the timid shield bearer at common. So like I agree, as a 4/3 it can like have some trouble.
I will note that we just described 2 different cards to make attacks better, making the 4/3 good at breaking board stalls, and I feel like maybe those cards are the cards that are breaking the board stall, not the 4/3.
Yeah, this is why I think that the like lieutenant can legitimately help with this in combination with things like the 4/3.
Specifically the 4/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the timid shield breaker is very, very premium.
You might be overly discussing a card everyone knows is good.
Yeah.
You take that card and you play it.
Yeah, it's good.
Also, the Bristlebane Outriders is just very, very nice.
It's not that these cards aren't good, it's that I'm really trying to hammer home the importance of, if your Kithkin deck cannot reliably break the board in every single game you play, it will perform much worse than the cards in your deck as an aggregate look.
Yep.
I think Kithkin is kind of like goblins in that there are a smaller amount of cards that really matter in the deck, and you can't get into Kithkin. Like, you can't get into Kithkin and assume that you're gonna get these cards because they might not just be open. Kind of like goblins with the Boggart Mischief and the uncommon. So like, if I have these cards, I think this is a deck I'm happy to play, but I'm not gonna go into green-white expecting them to be opened.
Agreed.
I have a question. So, sorry.
I was just gonna say you can do. I think you can do that with elves.
Yes.
So for me, like is it Kitkin? I mean, is it the green white aggro deck which plays the 4/3 because it's amazing, and then you kill the rest? Because sometimes I build this deck with just it's I think less type of synergies than elves and merfolks. So, but I haven't been in the space as much.
Yeah, it's definitely less synergies than like elves or merfolk, but like if you have like Thought Weft Imbuer, you really care about having, like someone was saying, like it's much better when it's giving +4/+4 than when it's giving +2/+2, and like similarly, like the Foul Knight giving first strike is really backbreaking on that card.
No, I agree. So, 2 questions. The 4/2 Trample Changeling, would you call it a card that fits in this deck, or?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I think the 4/2 Trample Changeling fits in like all decks.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so and then I think, I'm not sure if it has been pointed out, but the white uncommon that put 2 Kitkins and then for 5 it puts another one. I think it's a great card and combo with the 2/2 Lieutenant, right? You can give it instant speed.
I like that card.
Yeah, the festival gets very good when you have like a lot of things that key off of Kithkin specifically. Outside of that, it can be a little mediocre, I found. But
this is a way to break board stalls. Like you can just make a 1/1 every turn and it eventually over.
I do think that
it
card
slowly breaks board
Slowly,
stalls.
yes.
Yeah,
But
if
it
you
does
don't
do
have
it.
the other payoffs.
That card is like, I've had Merfolk decks where it's actually quite good because Merfolk struggles with the sizing in similar ways where it wants to break board stalls. Obviously, it's good with Convoke, but then like you can sometimes just get into a stall where you get to 10 mana and you just end up with like 15 creatures and attack all.
Yeah, but it's a much weaker way of doing it, but it has the nice property of being like on curve 2/1/1.
Basically, just don't like consider this card not a Merfolk card ever. It like you can play it in those decks.
It does also play very well with the 2/2 that pays 5 with pumps. Because now you're either you can attack with your 1/1s and they can block with their 2/2s. You can pump and threaten that, or they just don't block and you get chip damage and end up making another 1/1.
Yep.
I'm just looking at that card as a white card that you want to play.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm vaguely worried about that card, or a few of these other ways that break board stalls very slowly, is a lot of the times that you wind up in these protracted board stalls, like sometimes you're a little bit ahead and it's great, right? Like you have the flyer and they're dying and nothing happens and that's phenomenal. But you have to imagine sometimes you're a little bit behind and like you're looking to break the board stall, but like you are gonna die in 4 turns if like nothing happens, right? This card doesn't really seem to have the velocity to change whether or not you're going to die in this board stall if you're behind, right? If your opponent's like clocking you with the 2/1 flyer it's unlikely that you're spending 5 mana to make a 1/1 every turn will be what will change the math before you die. So I want board cells a little bit more velocity, so when I draw them, I don't have to be like, well, that would have been nice if I drew it 6 turns ago. I want to be like, okay, it still works mostly.
Yeah, I have lost enough games where I like was too behind for kin binding to take me back into the game to like think that Clash and Festival like always helps with the board cell problem.
Yeah. But Prisma Basher? I mean, you were already dead.
Okay. Are there? Oh, we should talk about Vivid. That's I think one of the last spaces, unless anyone else has any. Or I guess there was a question at some point earlier today, looking at a draft log about blue-black fairies and whether anyone has whether anyone has drafted like a blue-black flash fairy space.
I have ended up blue-black, and it's really hard to get enough instants in your deck for some reason. Because you need the payoffs and the cards, and
because there's no common black murder at instant speed.
Well,
there's the Blight Rock.
Yeah, okay.
There's not really murder.
You can end up in it, but it's I wouldn't recommend it kind of thing.
And that card's super pretty. Man, I hate the fucking black cards. Like to be clear, the 2/3 flying lifelinker that like distributes -1/-1 counters is good enough on rate that like if you're able to trigger it, it's good.
Yeah.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
The triple blue-black. It reads really well. It doesn't play.
I would say, yeah.
Read it and then read any Eclipse card.
The payoffs in blue-black are getting you to the same point that all of the other normal cards and all the other decks do, and then you don't have the premium payoffs.
And another problem with this deck is once you get into it, you have to play bad cards to try and make them work.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I need enough instants to get here, but your instants aren't good, but you have to play them. And just end up with a scrappy.
Instants aren't good.
Yeah, I think that like you can theoretically play blue and black good cards, but definitely do not go into it for the flash payoffs, so to speak.
Also, don't go into it for deceit. That's a blue or black card. It's fine.
Yeah. You would go into it for like I opened Ashling's Command, blue is open, red was very closed, and like I got a bunch of good black cards. I'm gonna splash the Ashling's Command or something like that. That kind of thing. Or like, yeah. Vivid. Shall we talk about Vivid? Largely a base green deck, though it can like. Okay, I have some opinions on Vivid where I think it's not so much a deck, so much as like many decks can support Vivid cards randomly, and most of the Vivid cards are strong. So I believe the set of Vivid cards are Kithkeeper in white, which I think is mediocre, to maybe unplayable. I don't know. I don't think it's unplayable, but
it's closer to unplayable than good.
Yeah. Then in blue there is Rhyme Chill, which I think is fine, and Shine Striker, which is good. Yeah, Shine Striker is really good. No, not yet. In black, there's the Shimmer Creep, which is good. Not quite as good as Shine Striker, I think, but
not as good as Darn Helioges.
I did get to
sometimes it's better.
Double a Shimmer Creep trigger for the full 10.
I did get ranked for 10 on Monday.
I tried to do that, but they died the first trigger.
I think it counts as doubling still. Explosive Prodigy is just good everywhere. You don't like it's good for 2 even. Yeah.
Good if you can.
Yeah, and in green there's Prisma Basher, which is amazing. There's also Prismatic Undercurrents, which I tried early in the format, but I think is just bad. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's just a bad card.
Yeah.
If it wasn't green, it would be better.
And the one that gains life.
Yeah, the 2/4
the 2/4 Death Toucher is like fine.
It's exactly what it does, which is like it's a 2/4 Death Toucher that gains like 2.5 life, and that's like either good or not in your deck.
Yeah.
It gets cut a lot.
The real Vivid cards are the red-white 2/1 that has first strike on your turn, the blue-black 2/2 with flash, and the Scarecrow.
Yes. To some extent, the black-white lifelinker as well, and the gangly and
also like the Tree Folk that costs 1 triple black hybrid is just always great, and is actually not like it's just nice to have at all moments.
I was saying the 2/3 lifelink.
Oh,
Feastling.
yes,
Feastling and Stompling also count. think. Feastling
Yes.
more so because
Yes.
it's not green.
And
Like
because
how you develop your vivid.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. I think we'll talk about it later, but
Or now we're talking about vivid now.
well, I meant the changelings specifically.
Oh, sure.
I was going to say the changelings are very high priority picks for the reasons of both they enable all the good vivid payoffs and they enable all the good kindred payoffs.
The last thing I want us to talk about is changeling tribal.
we heard about the fertile ground equivalent a little bit about how it could bridge some of your clunky curves and some of your green decks earlier. It makes the land the color. Just know that this counts for 2 for vivid. I still don't really generally want it that much in my vivid decks because I just want to be on the board, and then all of my creatures are just kind of messed up when I'm already on the board.
Scarecrow probably better.
Kind of exactly the problem.
Great Forest Druid also often better just because it's a 0/4.
Correct, but it does fix your mana and it does put 2 counts on the board. Puka's Eye, bad.
Yeah. I will say, if you have like a lot of vivid stuff, you can play Puka's Eye as just like up my count by 1, draw a card for 2 mana. It's not going to be great. You should not ever treat that card as I want to tap it to draw cards. You will
Weirdly good stats, like C-, not amazing. Like,
because people know when to play it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is I do not want to wind up in a deck that's trying to cast a bunch of spells with Vivid X equals 5. Oh, we didn't talk about the cost for Rooster, but that guy's good.
Oh yeah. Wildvine Pummeler, 6/5.
Yeah, it's a 6/5 for 4 or a 6/5 for 5, right? Those are the 2 costs that you usually pay.
Yes.
Both of those costs are pretty good for the size. I don't know, Nicole. I just see a lot of trophies.
I will say another big. So we talked about the changelings, the hybrid changelings as things that like help with vivid stuff. The other 2 that really often help with your, I guess another 3 actually, that really help in my experience with your vivid stuff is Flaring Cinder, Eclipse Flamekin, and Merfolk Sky Swimmer. Are 3 that I found help a lot just randomly. Where Eclipse Flamekin is like the easiest eclipsed one to cast, and often you are going to be like green-blue base or green-red base, and not not obviously have the other of red and blue, and both Flaring Cinder and Eclipse Flamekin help bridge that. And I've had Marrow Sky Swimmer be like a fine card that you can play in those.
Your red-black decks.
Yeah, in my red-black decks, exactly. But in even in vivid decks, it's just like I'll just like play this, and it'll provide 2 different bodies that are both blue and white. It's kind of nice. Yes, it is also very good with Prism Basher.
Make sure you check your token colors when you're putting your deck together. Whether you make the black fairy or whatever. Like these cards matter. You want to be able to support your vivid cards enough of the time. I just want to play like my nice little Oh, we didn't talk about the blue-green hybrid vivid payoff.
Glister Baron, yes.
Yes. So when we talk about ways to break board stalls, Glister Baron fucks.
Yeah.
I like that card in
It
Merfolk.
basically only does that. It does the job extremely well, but like you need to have a deck that like can have a card in that role and only in
Well,
that
we were
role.
literally just talking about wanting to play an 04 that does that. So
Well,
I think
it's
I'm
no
going to-
5. Thought West Lieutenant?
Yeah, look at what
Sure.
Right?
My opinion is
Endure.
a lot here.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I would say Glister Baron reads like the worst thought left Endure I've ever seen, but that's still quite good.
Yes.
And sometimes it reads a lot better because it pretty easily gives +3/+3.
I think it's pretty easy for Endure to get plus.
In your blue-white deck?
Yeah.
You think that your 05 gives +3/+3 in your Merfolk deck?
Often. I have Changelings, Dagger.
Stupid Dagger.
Yeah.
Dagger's nice.
It took me so long to realize that dagger didn't equip your creature when you played it.
So disappointing, yeah.
It took me like casting the card once on board, and I was like, huh?
Wait, this isn't a 2/2 for 2?
Yeah.
I
was like, this 2/2 seems great. It's a,
Then
it's a
the
colorless
equip is
changeling.
2 mana.
Yeah.
So much mana.
Yeah, it's actually
It's no Glimmerlight.
I just assumed they had printed the best Glimmerlight.
Big fan of the Baron for its ability to break board stalls for your blue and your green decks, like pretty regardless of each. And because it's not good in your blue-green decks very much, because those decks aren't very good, it usually triggers for 3, and sometimes it even kick up to 4 if you have like the Notably, it's really nice that the red-white changeling and the blue-black changeling are both not green.
Yes.
So that when you have your blue-white or your green-white deck with this card, it is pretty plausible that you get red or black your 2-drops, and then it does a lot of stats. Like it really does for just being another way to get through the board.
Yeah. Another thing I want to mention for enabling Vivid is you might just randomly have some like one-off Vivid payoff thing, like one Explosive Prodigy or like one Shine Striker in your deck, and when you do, you should pay attention to tokens and things that make those tokens. Where, for example, Elder Auntie, like the 3-mana goblin that makes a 1/1 goblin. The goblin tokens are black and red, and if you're in a blue-red deck with like Shine Striker and Explosive Prodigy, you might just, if you like need to play some like only okay 3-drop creature, maybe you bias towards Elder Auntie because it helps up your Vivid count for 2 of your cards or something like that.
I have some pretty different perspectives on the Vivid deck. For one, I think the Kith Keeper is a bomb and a deck that can support it. I think that I don't know how to articulate it exactly, but I'm looking at, I think of it as like I think a lot of the blue cards are very defensive, and I think that it can be a Simic deck. I think it exists often in the teamer space. I think you're playing with these really defensive 2-drops and 3-drops, like the 1/3s and like the Summit Sentinel, the Scarecrow, the 0/4 Druid, the 2/4 Callwrath that becomes a Vigilance attacker, 4/4 Vigilance attacker, or the Rhyme Speaker, and then you are like a lot of decks in the format are playing creatures and trying to attack you with them, and this style of deck is very good at counterplaying that, and then playing to a top end like Prism Basher and Kith Keeper or like Shine Striker and a pile of removal. And I found this. I found that this shell to be very strong. I don't think you're interested in like Puka's Eye or like non-creature based like ramp or color fixing.
Can I ask some questions about like my concerns with this space?
Yes.
So first, I think like I'm a little worried about having both enough payoffs and enough like card dig to get to them, because a lot of the defensive cards you're describing like don't actually count towards either of those. Like the 1/3, it's hard to unlock the card from a lot of the time, etc.
Well, I think what I forgot to mention is I think that a lot of these cards overlap with the elemental space.
Yeah,
I think
it's the deck you fall into.
You're doing a lot of the rummaging kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the decks that you have had success with this, like, do they have rare payoffs, or is it really just the uncommons?
Like Prism Basher and Kith Keeper typically, and Shine Striker are like the payoffs I'm looking for.
Okay.
But like sometimes you'll get like something.
I'm
like
also
an
worried about
Ashen
counting to colors, given that like a bunch of the defensive cards you're thinking about are like just blue or just green, which most of your other cards will also be.
Yeah, I mean in these decks, I'm also like trying to aggressively take Scarecrows, and like I think Scarecrow's really strong in this deck, and I'm like happy to play like 4 of them in this style deck.
I wouldn't say you aggressively take Scarecrow. I think you get the Scarecrow.
Yes. Well, like, you're specking on them higher than you would.
You aggressively notice that you're getting the Scarecrows.
Yes.
I've been blue-red playing the payoffs just as much as I have been green-blue.
Yeah.
And I actually think blue-red is a stronger base than green.
I agree. I just think that Great Forest Druid is a good 2-drop in this deck, and like they can be a path to being blue-green.
I think this is one of the only places where Great Forest Sword really is a strong 2-drop, which I mean both like is supportive of that, but also recognizes that this card is like a lot less flexible than you'd imagine the 0/4 bird being. Because like weirdly enough, like I just kind of want all my other green decks to just like get into the red zone more.
I will say one other place that Great Forest Druid has shined for me is places with like blight stuff, where sometimes like rarely you can get into like a Jund or Abzan kind of space where you like it's just nice to have something that helps fix your colors
all of
there.
Your green-black decks that can't support the Elves cards for one reason or another can be decks that contain Forest Druids, but all of those decks are less good versions of a green-black deck that just had a bunch of nutty Elves cards.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like all the archetype space. Oh, sorry.
I have one last like deck to talk about if
Yes.
we are done.
Okay, yeah.
So, what happens if you just have a weird draft and you can't get into any of these decks? you get one payoff for one deck, and then that's not open, but you also pick up randomly another really good payoff for a different deck. That's also not open. You don't really know what's open, but you're getting a bunch of decent cards.
You're just a little confused.
You're confused.
You sound
need
like
some
you're trying to
identity.
sell us something.
Yeah. What if I told you that there's a way
Whoa.
to enable multiple competing payoffs that don't seem like they work together?
Larwin elves hate him.
What if I told you that you have 10 changelings in your deck? You can enable a Thought-Wept Imbuer, a Champion of the Weird, and a Morkins Loyalist.
So I have an objection to this, which is I don't think this is a deck. I think this is a thing you do in all your decks, kind of. Just at different degrees.
Fair,
Yeah.
but I think it works a lot better in like scrappy drafts. Basically,
Yes.
it is a way to salvage a draft that goes badly. To end up with like a very functional deck, even in a seat that was trying to train wreck you.
I have ended up in this before because you've taken a Gathering Stone early. You're like, oh, I should take this changeling a bit more aggressively.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I'm not really getting the payoffs for this one. I better take another changeling.
It's why today I took like a pick 2 mischievous sneakling out of like a very uninspiring pack.
Yeah.
Sneaky pick.
It was very good. My Sunderflag didn't bounce it.
Nice.
And it had double strength for my giant.
The giant is actually kind of busted in this deck.
Yeah.
The
double strike giant.
I think the giant is specifically good if you're doing the changeling thing.
Yeah.
I think that when we talk about like all the changelings with tribal payoffs, like really the question is like how many copies of X card that supports this effect do I get for Y payoff? The numbers change based on the relative value of the payoff, when it needs to occur by, and what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Right? So like when we talk about the champions, if you do not have this card, it is a 0 because you cannot cast it. This is bad. However, when we talk about the champions, some of them fuck, and other of them do not. They are solid for sure. The like blue one is messed up.
Yes.
The black one is also messed up. The red one is also messed up, but only if you're really continuing to do things with it, right? You need even more than normal. Green one's actually also. It turns out they're all good.
They're all good. I think the red one's the most conditional.
I haven't seen anyone cast white one yet.
Well, it turns out. Did you know that it's just big?
Yeah.
And it has flash.
And pumps your entire team.
Yeah, if you attack with 3
the point
Kithkin,
is that it
they
might not
don't
pump
have
your
good
entire
blocks.
It's like a combat trick and it's a 4/5.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed it was good, but I just haven't seen anyone.
And like if you champion like a Dendulin Weaver, if they kill it, you just get it back.
Oh, well, that's
and you just
unbeatable.
keep doing that over and over again, so it's
I've done that. That's
unbelievable.
Like championing a card in your hand is preferable to championing a card on the board.
Yeah.
And that can often mean that you want extra density so that you don't have to like, I have one of these types. It is my 2-drop. I need to play my 2-drop. Then I'm
Thankfully,
undoing my playing of my
the
2-drop to
white one's a little bit better because you can oftentimes pick up your thing.
Yeah.
Is the red champion good?
The red champion can be good. You have to be
But if
very deep.
Everything works perfectly. If everything works perfectly, the card is very good.
And so
if anything goes a little bit wrong, it's not.
Which rounds out to.
The ceiling isn't that high.
No, it is.
Pretty
It
high.
will straight up
You
kill
want to play your 6/5s.
Well,
there's a changeling that you can copy.
You play a
there's
Lobby
thing
Changeling,
where-
you get another 7.
You shouldn't play the thing that makes a token copy really ever, but like if you
Like
get
the
one or two of
Shimmer
those,
Spark
like the 3/5 flyer
That's
that
my
Yeah.
Carbonite
it
Full War.
attacks is just 10 damage.
11 actually, because it gives plus. Oh wait, no, it doesn't.
They're the
Yeah,
fresh
right.
What are the trigger doubler?
If you happen to have 12 elementals in your deck, I think I would play it.
Yeah.
Oh, play it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the ceiling is it
It's
kills
not
your
a
opponent.
not
The
like a
floor
bomb
is-
usually.
That's kind of what I meant by the ceiling.
Okay, I
Like,
was.
It's not like
wondering if
a
you were
early
asking if it's
pick.
playable.
Like
Yeah.
it is totally playable.
Yeah,
but
the-
just to be clear, as far as we compare to the other champions, which I think you are going to take, maybe not the black one, but you are going to take and try to make work.
For
what it's
No,
worth,
no, you,
take the
you,
black
you
one.
take the black one. You
Sure,
try to
but
make it
I'm
work.
not going to commit to it. That early.
Read the card again.
No, I
The
don't.
black one has been mid for me.
Yeah, I think the black one's
It's a little bit more like a wrap
Good,
than it
but-
is like a value generating.
I think that
I think it's a little closer to a Plague Wind.
No.
No, but if you take it early, you should try and treat
My
it
opponents just have
as
a lot of 1/3
you're trying to
and
build
2/3 when I
towards it
cast
being Plague Wind.
and it's just like
Then,
hard
like
to get
blight a
done.
few times, go to combat, then blight a few times. I don't know. I find the card to be incredibly powerful. I think the effect is relatively unique in terms of the format, and I think you should be trying to leverage and use it. It's well statted, it has good upside, and it's one of those cards that like you can cast on turn 4 and kind of just end the game.
We can talk more about it in the Rares Mythic
Yes.
space.
Okay.
In terms of changeling stuff, I think that you do have to be careful with like whether your payoffs are actually good enough to play that many like slightly below rate cards in your deck. Like all of the common hybrid changelings, it's important to pick them up sometimes in the draft because like just filling those holes is nice. But if your whole deck is those changelings, they can be a little underrated, understated, especially like the red-white one. Stands out as one that's like pretty understated.
That's like the one I would call out as like I really don't want to play that one unless the deck is great.
My objection is more to the 3/4 Reacher.
The 3/4 Reacher has also felt.
I'm sure there was one.
I'm pretty happy with either of the 2-drops because they just cost 2 mana.
I agree.
And they are 2 colors, which is nice.
The
I
one
mean, they all are
which
2 colors, obviously.
doesn't look good but plays well actually is the 5 mana 3/3.
Oh yes, the flyer.
Yeah.
Just because of the flying.
It doesn't do vivid stuff, but
it does gain life.
It does gain life, yes.
It plays
and it wrecks their little Morsenize.
Yeah, that card is played a lot better for me then.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, but you should play it sometimes.
Boldware aggressors really like it.
It's also like a 3/3 flyer is about the right size to tangle with a lot of the other flyers in the format, which is nice. So like even if you overpay for its effect a little bit, like sometimes it doesn't matter if you have to trade mana of negative in certain exchanges, so long as you're like net trading mana across the game well. And like the Merfolk like 1/3 flyer that gets pumped is a great example of a card that will probably outcompete you on rate against this card, but like you gotta find a way to deal with that card.
Yeah.
And like a 3/3 flyer is actually a pretty good one.
And sometimes it randomly exiles stuff from the graveyard and
Yeah.
you're really happy.
And sometimes you tap your Merfolk and give your 3/3 flyer +2/+out. It's nice.
Yeah. Shall we move on to talking about like draft navigation briefly?
Did we talk about white black?
That isn't we talked about like Mardu white stuff.
Yeah.
I have to grab something.
Should we wait for you?
I just you guys can navigate a draft.
Sorry, what?
I'm good.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. I drafted like 100 times. I'm still okay with the set.
Do yourselves a favor and don't be one of the people that pass promo. You see Dora Destinies?
Anyways, so draft navigation stuff. Do you want to talk about this? I think you have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I sent like a pretty big message in format discussion after our draft log review on like Monday or something. Basically, I think this draft format is very different from a lot of recent ones where there's a really large distinction between the payoffs and the enablers, and the premium payoffs are you need them to have a good deck. You just need them. If your deck does not have like basically they're just bombs, and a lot of these are uncommons, but if your deck does not engineer multiple bombs within it with its like structure, then you're not going to have a good deck in this format. So in terms of draft navigation, I think what we are settling on is that like in at least the first half of pack 1, but potentially as late as like early pack 2, you really should be aggressively taking these premium payoffs, the ones that are actually worth it, even if you're taking some that do not really cohere with each other. You want to be speculating, and you should be very willing to end up abandoning some of your early picks because of this. You just want to get at like as many shots at building a deck with those as possible. Part of the way that you kind of fix the messiness that the strategy creates is taking these changelings very highly, so this can like backdoor you into the changeling deck if your draft kind of goes off the rails, but mostly it's just so that you have like multiple outs during the draft to enable this one or enable that one or whatever. There's also there's like a lot of cards in the set that are sort of subtly flexing between different spaces. So the example that just I posted here is like Sourbread Auntie, the 4/3 that blights 2 and makes some goblins. You can have that in a blight deck, you can have that in a goblin deck, you can have it in a vivid deck because it makes a red and black creature if you like blue-red. That kind of thing, those are like more particular, you have to look out for them. The changelings and the hybrid stuff is sort of universal. And I think valuing those above just like the commons that make exactly one of the decks tick is probably a pretty important thing in pack 1 for your draft navigation, so that you can sort of hover between multiple payoffs that you've acquired and then hold your powder basically until like you open your pack 2 rare and maybe get like past 1 or 2 good uncommons at the beginning of pack 2 before committing to, okay, I'm not going to be doing this, but I'm going to be making like these 3 cards really sing in my deck. In the rare and mythic meeting, I think we really want to be figuring out like which of these payoffs are worth taking early and trying to make work if you can, and which are like you'll play them if your deck makes them work, but you shouldn't be like taking them as bombs and premium cards.
I want to add something to that. I think that there are many different kinds of payoffs in the set. Yeah. There's the ones that are like you need to work to enable this, and if you work to enable this, it's good. Think like the champions are like the most example of the like most extreme example of this, where you literally can't cast them if you don't have things to enable them. But there's also things like Wanderwine Farewell or like the Lords. Like you need things, you like actually need creature count for those kinds of things. Then there's cards that are like, this is really good in like this gets better when I'm deeper in the specific typal space, but overall it is just a good card. This is something like Grub, where like you really don't need that many like cards to make it work. For a lower powered version of this, Dawnhand Eulogist kind of counts as well. Like you don't need that many Elves cards to make Dawnhand Eulogist good. It's just a good card that you might play like if you're just in those colors, right? And it's important to like just make that distinction to know whether like if I'm taking like a pack 1 pick 1 champion, and then pack 1 pick 2 I'm faced with like taking like a creature that matches the creature type of that versus a different payoff. It's not like whether like which of those picks is correct is not something that's like obvious, but you should really think about like the dynamics of, am I ever putting these 2 payoffs together? Do I really want to be like forcing this specific payoff with only just one like thing to pay me off? How realistic is that? How good is that?
You kind of need to know how much tension you're creating in your pool. Is how to put it.
Yeah, it's very much an art, and not a science. And I've definitely had several decks that like both overshoot and undershoot tension of like, oh, maybe I could have like fit a little more power in here and taken a few less like changelings to enable things, or some decks where it's like I'm doing way too many things here that are all conditional and they just don't work, and it's like hard to find a middle ground, and like you need to find that middle ground.
There are also like significantly more hybrid cards in this set, so there are just more playables available to you in the draft, so it is slightly easier to pivot around to make certain things work.
Yeah. I also think I want to note that there's like kind of 2 different avenues for how you can be like straddling between spaces. So there's this like middle path approach where you're kind of getting deep into one color with like the hybrids of that color, and you can pivot that color into like a pair with one side or a pair with the other side.
Kithkin Elf situation.
Exactly. Kithkin Elves is a great example of this. Or you can say, throughout pack 1, I've seen like 5 incredibly strong Merfolk cards that don't fit in any other deck, and I've seen 5 incredibly strong Elf cards that don't fit in any other deck.
And I also have a random Kithkin card.
Sure. Right? Then you open pack 2, and you know once you're in this situation that like 3 or 4 picks into pack 2, I'm going to have to just choose one of these and abandon the rest. That can be a situation that is sometimes correct to get yourself into, as long as you're very willing and brave enough to get yourself out of it decisively.
Yeah.
That is like a way to do it. It's obviously slightly preferable, I think, to like have a deep one color and then pivot either direction, because that can be like you're using most of your cards, you have more room for error. But to accumulate all of the power that you might need in a draft, you may have to take the other approach.
I've also had some weird spots where it's like I have like a Wanderwine Farewell and a Morkant's Loyalist, so like a Merfolk card and an Elf card, and I'm taking this Prideful Feastling because it's white-black hybrid and it can go in either.
And somehow I'll watch you cast both cards in the draft.
Probably not. Don't do that one.
like classic Ben Stark drafting the hard way article.
Yeah, I have thoughts on it, but whatever.
That's fine. I have thoughts on it, but it's like it's probably worth a look at if you had not ever engaged with this before, because it's very analogous to what we're saying here, which is just like to some degree deferring your decision to be able to make sure that you wind up in the right lane with the correct amount of top end because it's so concentrated in the uncommon is generally going to be more advantageous than moving in and finding yourself tested in a lane that's not particularly advantageous for you.
And I think one of the most difficult things about this format is that, like, I think the biggest trap you can fall into is trying too hard to enable something that wasn't worth it. And it's, I think, very important, and I think we should really focus the, like, next meeting after a break in, like, 10 minutes on this, of what is really worth it, what makes it worth it, like, how strongly can you support it, and what shouldn't you go for if you can only kind of partially do it or whatever. Like, yeah, I think being very aware of, like, what are the powerful things to do, what will win you games if you can do it and accomplish it with your deck building, and what is, like, nice if it happens, but you shouldn't be building around it, is the thing to pay most attention to in the draft. Like, do not kind of get tunnel visioned into something that just isn't going to end up in, like, a good space.
I think a really important trap also to be wary of in this format is thinking that, or identifying the open lane, but not having the good cards for that archetype. So something like you're really deep in blue, there's like a weird pack that had a ton of really good cards, and you see like a pick 6 Eclipsed Marrow, and you say, okay, I'm going to be Merfolk to play this. And then just the table just does not open very many Merfolk great uncommons or rares. And it would be better in that spot to pivot either into elementals or play some sort of blue vivid deck or something like that, because the delta, the like upper tier of good cards in this format that actually matter is so above the like middle tier in this format that you really need your deck to have that top tier of cards. And without the top tier of cards, I'm not willing to go into a certain archetype unless I have those cards. I think that's especially true for goblins in particular, and Kithkin, is that you really need the good payoffs to be in that deck. And if those are just like not opened at the table, no one's going to be in goblins. I don't want to go into goblins because it's quote unquote open, just because it's open.
Yeah, you don't go into decks for the random, I see a lot of goblins commons or whatever.
So one of the questions I want to pose to the group, I have some thoughts on this myself, but like I think it's really important, is so let's say you've picked up a few of these early like high power cards, and you're looking at a pack, and none of the cards are egregiously above replacement, but like you've got a smattering of selections and some plausible cards of each color. I think it's important to start to develop some heuristics or like ways that you decide what looks like a pack that is above replacement for your spot, particularly when we're in like picks 5 to 7, where you're unlikely to see the top tier options, and you're going to be like trying to decide like, does my lane seem plausibly open when there is, and then like what are the cards we're trying to like, what's the above replacements, right? I like using the 17 lands average last seen at as kind of like a reflective index of like, am I seeing this card later than I normally would, as a kind of proxy for like, well, maybe this is a good spot to be in. I don't know if any people have other clearer thoughts. Like when you are pick 6, you've taken 3 different payoff tribal cards. You don't really have a lot of clear direction yet. Where do you go?
I have a thought about this, and I think Jason is going to agree with it because I've learned a lot of this from Jason. I think that the best way to approach those packs and those decisions is to explicitly not index too much on them. To basically take a card that could work in one of your spaces and then not read into like what is open in the draft from that pick and continue on assuming like I will just continue to take whatever card maximizes the potential power of my final deck, works with the spaces that I'm in. And if I keep doing that and don't think, well, I committed to Merfolk 2 picks ago, so I need to take the Merfolk card now, even though there's a better card in a different deck. If you like are pretty disciplined in not thinking like, oh, well, I'm committing because I'm taking this common that goes in this deck. That I think is probably the better approach. Basically, try not to think about it too much.
How I would put it is, if you ask me the question like what would I view as like something that's like meaningfully like above replacement level is like literally the things that I feel like I could not replace. So like like random changelings, those are in some senses replaceable, but also those are important types of picks that you can make for like passing moves, kind of like I'm taking this changeling to delay the decision and it'll go in multiple things. That's like one kind of pick you can make. Things that aren't replaceable, like good removal, good 2-drops, not just like random 2-drops, but like actively good 2-drops that will scale with the game. So something like the Merfolk 2/2 that gains 2 life, or like a Wicker Maw if I in a spot where like I like need vivid or fixing stuff.
3/1 indestructible.
A bunch of like really good 2-drops. Like Elves has a bunch. The 3/1 indestructible, the 3/1 that surveils, the 2/2 lifelink, the Creekwood Safe Right, the one that grows into a 5/5. Like that kind of stuff I think of as like above replacement level. If it's just like random 3-drops or like okay 2-drops or like random 4-drops, I'm not going to care often. Like I don't think that matters that much because there's a lot of reasons to not need to take those cards.
Yeah, I think the unique part of this format is that the cards that are like above replacement level are that upper crust of really good uncommon payoffs, really good just like the really good vivid payoffs. Like there's not really this like middle section of like I'm gonna take a really flexible B level card in this format. Like there's a lot of A's, which include the good lords and the eclipse creatures, or like B pluses, and then there's like a whole lot of C's. And there's not really a lot in the middle that you can be like, this card is like pretty strong, it's going to make my deck and be really good and keeps me flexible. There's like not a lot of cards like that, other than like removal spells are basically the only thing. And then I think you put changelings in that tier of like picks because they keep you so open, because also they're flexible in that they're hybrid and a lot of them are colorless too.
Changelings are much more a draft strategy than they are a signal though.
Yeah, changelings are never a signal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the changelings are how, like, this is how we wind up in the changeling deck you were describing, is that we defer choice 3 times, and then, like, we open our pack 2, and we have, like, 3 payoffs, 3 changelings, and, like, 3 filler cards.
Yeah.
What I heard, though, is premium kindred 2-drops are a reason to shift, all else being equal.
Yeah, but specifically, I'm just thinking of, like, a lot of times, like, my draft philosophy is that, like, the things that like just fundamentally all limited decks need that are like pretty limited are good 2-drops, removal, like mana in some cases. Like sometimes you need some stuff to like either smooth out your mana or fix your colors.
I believe that's a Jason problem more than the rest of us.
Well, I also mean things like things that help you not flood or screw. So like Flaring Cinder or Unexpected Assistance can count as part of that. And like, so those things I think of as important to a deck where I'm not ever going to take like random okay 4-drop that isn't particularly powerful, right? Are there any other thoughts on draft navigation, or should we take a break for a while?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording, start uploading it, and we can reconvene at like, I don't know, do we want to say 4:15 or 4:30?
Yeah.
I don't.
4:15.
4:15.
4:15.
Okay. And we'll try to blaze through the rares, mythics, and some uncommons.
Special guests.
Who
wants to play air hockey?